We're speaking with Chris Barnes, one of the vocalists for the Australian Pink Floyd show, which is coming back to Worcester on September 19th at the Hanover Theatre. And Chris, good morning, and thank you very much for taking the time to talk.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on the show. Nice to be here.
This is a special show because we are celebrating, I can't believe this, the 50th anniversary of the Wish You Were Here album. So are you guys going to be playing that album in its entirety?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, obviously, it's a very, very important album in the Floyd catalogue, and it's a very different vibe to when we played Dark Side of the Moon a couple of years ago, and that's on the 50th anniversary for that album. This is just a completely different journey that it takes us and the audience on every night. It's been a really special year this year so far.
The Wish You Were Here album, very the big emotional story there is Syd Barrett visiting them in the studio and. The way it affected the music there. When you obviously have a deep love of the music, but when you're playing it, do you get into like the dig deep into facts like that to get into maybe a kind of the state of mind to play tunes from a certain era?
I mean, I can only sort of speak for myself, and that Syd Barrett for me is so important to the Floyd story. I got into the band through the Relics album, which is it's got quite a lot of Syd tracks on it. And the first kind of my impression of Pink Floyd was this kind of whimsical psychedelic rock band. And and you get asked sometimes, who do you prefer, David or Roger? And I always say Syd, because without Syd, well, we wouldn't be speaking on this phone. Without his drive and his tenacity and his songwriting, the band would never have got off the ground and, got their foot through the door, as it was. He's so important. And yeah, you're right. I mean, He is like a ghost that hangs over the entire album almost. It's this I don't know, this figure who was always there, but then not, but then also always present in. Floyd was still playing stuff from that album on their very last tour. So, things like Wish You Were Here and Shine On You Crazy Diamond are absolute crucial cornerstones of any Floyd gig.
With the music comes the Australian Pink Floyd show. Really a gigantic production. Now, there's a lot of Pink Floyd tribute bands out there, and I've seen many of them, and they're really great. But as far as the production goes, no, I don't think anybody can beat you guys. I mean, you've got everything, the inflatables, the lasers, all the visuals and things like that. And that'll be coming to the Hanover Theatre also.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it is a replication of a Pink Floyd concert for those who saw it back in the day for a bit of nostalgia, but then also people like myself who missed it when they were a going concern back in the day, and then people bringing their kids to say, I saw this band back in the 70s or the 80s or whatever, or even the 90s now. God, that's 30 years ago. It's that thing of. This was a spectacular show, and these guys, it's like being there. It's like going in a time machine. And I think that has always been the band's strength, is this thing of treating it with respect and sincerity. And, we're kind of like, the musicians are anonymous kind of professors in the laboratory kind of thing, where we're just playing this music, and it's not a show in a sense of like, you go and see a Queen band, you want the guy with the moustache running around, whipping the audience up into a frenzy. And Pink Floyd were never like that. They were very, very anonymous as people. So the production was the show. And obviously, if you're going to do Pink Floyd, you've got to do the production. And on Ozzy Floyd, when I first saw them, late 90s, it was even like that back then. Obviously, on a smaller scale to what it is now. But I think that's the key to the band's longevity is the attention to detail with the production as well as the music. It's not just, here's some Pink Floyd songs and thank you, good night. That just wouldn't wash.
Right. And I don't think anybody, any other Pink Floyd tribute, not that I know of anyway, actually back in the day, I think before you were in the band, got to actually play with members of the band. I believe David Gilmour had invited them to an end-of-tour party where they got to play, and then they were joined by, I believe, Richard Wright was there, and David, and was it, did Nick Mason get on stage with them? Do you know?
So what occurred was they were booked to play an end-of-tour party at Earl's Court after that residency that they did in '94, but I think there was sound restrictions and noise in the evening. After a certain time, they couldn't make noise or whatever in the venue. And so that was, they were there, but then the band then extended an invite for the band to play at David Gilmour's 50th birthday party, which was in 96, right? So there's the 1996, so a little bit later. And yes, that's what you've said is correct, is that Richard Wright did get up and sit alongside Jason, one of our founder members, and play the Hammond organ. And I mean, that must have just been, obviously it was way before I was in the band, but it must have just been terrifying, but a proper pinch yourself moment. And then apparently later in the evening they banned Gilmour, and that they did get up and play a couple of numbers, which again, I mean, can you just I can't even begin to imagine what that would feel like. It must have just been this huge feeling of nerves, but also, oh my God, I'm doing this.
Yeah, a dream. It must have been somebody.
Somebody's going to wake me up now.
Right. Yeah. Like, this can't be reality. I mean, I can't even imagine either. That's and I that really. I mean, when you talk about getting the endorsement of someone, that's pretty awesome too. And then, are there still people who worked with Pink Floyd and the Pink Floyd crew? And I believe there was some backing vocalists who worked with Floyd. Are they still involved in the band?
Yeah, we still have Lorelei McBroom, who sang with the band when they first went out in '87, when they came back after the Mark Sharps of Reason album. And then she worked with them again in '89 on a European run. And her sister, I think Lorelei had a record deal or something, so she recommended her sister to take her place because she had commitments. And Durga did the rest of that tour and then went on to do, the Division Bell tour. And then we've had various crew members over the years who have been former Floyd crew members. And currently our drum tech, Wayne, is Nick Mason's drum tech. He was working with him on the Sauce Full of Secrets stuff. But as we've got busier and busier, he's found his own replacement kind of thing. And, and our drummer met Nick at one of his shows in the UK. And apparently Nick had said to him, "Will you stop taking my drum techs?" So in a light-hearted,
right?
Because Nick Mason is a very funny guy, and in that kind of light-hearted British way,
So at the show at the Hanover, is it just "Wish You Were Here" all the way through, or will you also be doing other stuff? I know you guys. It doesn't matter. You guys play from every single era of Floyd.
We do, we do. We always make a point. It's always been a kind of an Aussie Floyd unwritten rule that, we cover all eras of Floyd within the evening. So although we are focusing on the 50th anniversary of Wish You Were Here, so we're playing obviously that in its entirety, we still cover all the bases from the Sid days, the pre-Dark Side stuff, all the big albums of the 70s. So there's a chunk of Dark Side in there. There's plenty of The Wall, and then there's the post-Roger eras covered as well. And it's just a case of, if you're a fan of a certain era, you've covered, really. That's always been certainly my time in the band, and as long as I've been aware of the band, you've always got something from each era, because I think each era is as valid as every other era, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice to ignore it. To say, oh well, this stuff's more important because it sold more. Well, yeah, but without this stuff, they wouldn't have got their foot in the door, and
right.
They wouldn't have established themselves on the festival circuit in Europe in the early 70s, and it's all part of the Floyd journey, really. And it's nice to be able to mix it up, because you might not know something, or you might have heard of the song that you might say, "What's this one?" And they'll say the name, and all right, and then someone might investigate, and then they discover an album that they didn't know, or didn't know that well, or and it's as I say, it is that thing. It's always been an Aussie Floyd thing of, like, we always cover all the bases, as it were.
Now, for you as a vocalist, are you more Roger Waters, or are you more David Gilmour? What is your style?
It's a bit of both, really.
Yeah.
So when Ricky, the bass player, and I joined back, it was like November 2015. We both auditioned for everything, so they could hear us both sing everything. And then they decided, well, his voice suits this kind of song, and his voice, well, he should sing the verses in this, and he should sing the verses, he should sing the choruses, or he could harmonise with him. And it was very much like a job share at the start, and now as we've sort of established ourselves in the roles, it's kind of, well, this is this type of song, so that's going to suit Ricky. So if you look at the stats of, like, oh, this is how many songs you're going to sing on this year, it's kind of 60-40 towards me or something like that. But there's a lot of, we harmonise really well together. And then Dave, one of the guitar players, also sticks backing vocals in as well. So there's parts where it's me and Dave harmonising, or there's parts when it's Ricky and Dave harmonising. So it is a kind of it isn't a kind of, well, you just do Roger because you can do that. I do predominantly do a lot of the Roger stuff.
Okay.
But I also do, this year I'm doing, Sorrow, which is a later Gilmour era track. But then Ricky's doing Coming Back to Life, which is a later Gilmour track. So there's no hard and fast rules on who sings what. It's just whose voice suits the song, really.
Right.
I guess.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. As far as you're concerned, just you, 2 questions about the songs you guys play. What is the most challenging song for you? And after that, what is your favorite song to perform?
Okay. I mean, my favourite Pink Floyd song is Echoes, but as of yet, we've not had it in the set since I've been in the band. But if what we've played or what we're currently playing, let's sort of filter it down to what we're currently playing. In terms of difficulty, Have a Cigar is a funny one because I've never done that with the band before. And obviously on the record that was sung by Roy Harper. It was neither David or Roger. And that's a different voice again. And it's kind of hard to capture that kind of slimy record exec kind of character that he's the persona that he's putting across there. This really horrible, chew 'em up and spit 'em out record executive character. And to sort of channel that is a bit interesting, but there's that, the gravy train line that goes on forever in that. Sometimes when I start that line, I always think, am I going to run out of breath here? But yeah, but it's not difficult, and it's a bit of a one note song kind of thing. It's not got much of a melody to it. So that's challenging only in a not in terms of, it's at the top of my range or anything like that. It's just challenging because it's different. And my favourite at the minute, it's strange because Shine On parts 6 to 9, when it comes back at the end of the album, I'm only on stage for 90 seconds or 2 minutes on that song to sing that last verse. But the journey that goes on, to get from the wind at the beginning and the slide guitar and the synths, and then it goes into once you get the do and you're like, the song's coming back again, and then I come out and sing the last verse, and then it goes into that funk jam. That's my favourite bit of the gig, just because the journey that song goes on, and I'm just this little tiny insignificant bit that just in the middle just come out and do the last verse and then get off. And that's my favourite bit of the gig because it's overlooked, that part of Shine On, always, because Floyd always seemed to, in the 80s and 90s, play parts 1 to 5 because that's the most famous bit. I think that 6 to 9 gets kind of forgotten about, and it's so nice to air it and play it. And also it resolves so beautifully with that section at the end, and it goes back all the way through. It's been in this minor key, and it ends on G major at the end, and it's this lovely resolution, and it's this kind of moment of like, wow, what a journey. And then we've wrapped up the album, and we ourselves are kind of like, wow, that was fantastic. And then the audience have obviously just been on the journey with us for 45 minutes, whatever it's been. And I'd say that's my favourite bit at the moment, just to sort of be a bit personal. Even though I'm not really on it, it's still my favourite bit. It's just so exciting.
You're on it. I mean, it's you say it's an insignificant part, but it's a part that's part of the song that's needed. I mean, so. Yeah, that's why that's one of my favorites, my favorite albums. Really, to me, Peak Floyd to me is Wish You Were Here and Dark Side of the Moon. And those are still 2 albums I can listen to all the way through without skipping a song. And I've worked in rock radio for over 30 years, and I've heard this music almost on a daily basis, and I still have yet to be burned out on it. There's just something about it that it still connects with me. Yeah.
I totally agree, and people often say, you must get really bored of hearing Pink Floyd, but it's that thing of, if I'm in the car and I've got the kids in the car and some Floyd comes on, the kids say, don't turn it over, but I'm never going to turn it over because I'm a fan first and foremost. Yes, I do this for a job, and I do 130 shows a year or whatever it is, and sing the same songs every night, and whatever. But I'm still a fan. You know, that's you cut me and I bleed Pink Floyd kind of thing. It's not I'm just doing this for the money. You know, I'm just here just to pay my rent or something. It isn't like that. We're all Pink Floyd nerds. I was a big bootleg collector for many years before I joined, and our original sax player Mike and I, within the first kind of tour, were exchanging files and going, oh, you've got Montreal. Oh, I haven't got Montreal. Which is that an audience recorder or is that a soundboard? And, geeking out. And then you go on stage and do a gig.
yeah. Then you get to actually do it, which is awesome. If I'm going out there and I'm looking for the best or one of the best bootlegs, what show am I looking for?
I've got a real soft spot for the US tour from '75. When they'd wrote "Shine On," it was one piece. It was kind of like 20 minutes, and it wasn't quite finished. And I think it's about spring summer '75. They did 2 legs in America, and they were splitting it in half with "Have a Cigar." So the opening part of the gig was they'd open with Raving and Drooling, which became Sheep, and then they'd do You Gotta Be Crazy, which became Dogs. And they'd lowered the key when they first played that. It was in E, and it was very wordy, and Gilmour was kind of complaining about the words, apparently. So then it was lowered down to D, and there was less words, and it was more like that version that of Animals. Then they played Shine On 1 to 5, then they did Have a Cigar, then they did 6 to 9. Then it was an interval. So you've just gone to watch a band, and you don't know anything they played for an hour. That's a ballsy move. Then they come on and they play All the Dark Side, and then they go off. And then the encore is Echoes. It's like, oh, my God, this is the best
amazing.
thing ever. So... yeah, and I've got a bootleg from, there's the Boston Garden one is really good. That's really good quality. And then there's one at the Nassau Coliseum that's also really good. And they're freely available. You just go on YouTube and find those things. And there was a guy whose name I cannot remember. It might be Mike or it might be Brian. And he was notorious for recording high-quality bootlegs of, say, Zeppelin and Yes and Floyd and the Stones and stuff. And I believe he smuggled microphones in a wheelchair and had a really high-quality tape recorder under his seat. I might be getting the details a bit foggy there, but, that is... You've honestly, you've opened a can of worms now.
Oh, no, this is it. This is what it's all about. It's about loving the band and nerding out on Pink Floyd. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, because I think by the time they were touring Animals in '77, the shows were a bit more... The recordings were good, but there's something. I think the audience were just a bit more quiet and not so invasive of the set. I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time since I've listened to either of those bootlegs, but certainly the Nassau Coliseum from '75 is fantastic, and Boston Garden is good as well. It is the Garden at Boston, isn't it? That was the venue everyone played back in the day.
Back then it was the original Boston Garden, which is interesting because it was notorious, the old Garden, to have it'd be very challenging for a sound crew. So it's interesting that this comes, that's a good sound. So they had a good night in the sound, obviously, at the old Garden. He must have
been near the PA or near the stage or had a good seat position.
Right.
But you can look up this kind of stuff on the internet. But it's certainly all over YouTube, definitely. Well, there you go. There's a little tidbit for you.
I'm definitely going to seek those out now. I gotta listen to those. So, Chris Barnes from the Australian Pink Floyd show, or Aussie Floyd, as some call you guys. Thank you very much for taking the time and nerding out on Pink Floyd with me. I appreciate it.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. I love that stuff. And then September 19th at the Hanover Theater. Chris Barnes, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, September 19th at the Hanover Theater. Looking forward to the whole show. Appreciate it.
No problem. Looking forward to it. All right. Thanks very much for having me on.